to Nerds of the Old Republic, the podcast where we drink and discuss nerdy fiction, and where I refuse to learn the names of all the elves. Fuck them, they live forever. Doesn't matter then, because I'm going to die before they die.
You have limited time, and they're not worth it.
No, absolutely. Don't
Just
care.
say some, like, vowels with an F or an M, and you're good.
Flaelor.
Perfect. I believe that was one of the sons of Migron.
The 73rd grandson of Melchlorothian.
Yes. Oh, also beholden to the oath.
Oh, of course, yes. As we all are. For this cast, if you can't tell, we're talking about the Amazon Prime Video attempt to make something incomprehensible to me comprehensible. The Rings of Power, based on Tolkien's The Silmarillion. Did it. Leave it in.
First of all, by the way, it's not based on the Silmarillion. They didn't get the rights to that.
Oh.
It's based on the appendices to The Lord of the Rings.
They literally only gave them the appendices.
Yep.
Wow.
So it's based. Well, don't get me wrong. The appendices are a novel.
It's a book.
Yeah, it's another 1,000 pages, but I did not realize that.
That's why. Well, we'll talk about it, but that's why the references are veiled and small.
Never mind. I was going to make an elf joke. We were joking off cast about elves and body parts
And horses and various things.
Oh,
yeah, you know. Well, let's bring it back.
They are the children of Iluvatar.
Yes, let's bring it back to the Silmarillion.
To the
Silmarillion.
You know what? Y'all want to do it? No.
I think it's pronounced Chamillionaire.
Yes. Camilleri.
We'll have to start doing the newspaper thing at the end of all these podcasts, and it'll just say, like, we'd like to make several corrections.
Yes.
We like to, Nerds of the Old Republic, we like to apologize to the following groups.
Yep. The Nerds of the Old Republican. No. Cut that. I'm done.
The mulled wine has killed
The
Adam.
mulled wine from the first cast has knocked me out. I'm good. What I was going to say is the Ombudsman has told me I need to correct the following mistakes before I aggrieve any legal parties.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Before we jump to Truth Social, I think we need to change our podcast name to Nerds of the Old Republican.
Y'all can carry on. I give you the rights to the trademarks and all the images. I'm out.
Welcome to Nerds of the Old Republic.
Yes, thank you. Let's try that again. From the top, shall we, or just carry on?
No, this is staying in. I'm not in it.
All right. Well, fine. If you can't tell, it's our second cast of the night. And if you loved or even continue to tolerate this little cast of ours and my mispronunciation of everything, consider leaving up to a 5-star review wherever you listen. Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, anywhere. It would really help like-minded nerds find us, and, it would give us some good feedback so we can fix the fact that I fuck everything up.
Up to, but not less than 5 stars.
Yes.
Let's be clear.
Well, I don't want to demand 5 stars, though I think we at least
Home Depot
6.
demands that of me whenever I buy something there, so...
Well, Home Depot, we are not.
Hey, remember, Nerds Nation, we're giving it away for free.
Ooh.
Yeah,
You can't see the look in Sean's eye right now. But
that was a glint.
I'm a little confused. But, maybe fantasy isn't your thing. In between Rings of Power today and the Silmarillion
Ding.
on the last episode, fantasy might not be your thing. Don't worry about it. We got you, fam. On our next cast, we are going to deal with the golden age of space fiction, the 90s, Star Trek, and all of those other nerdgasmic intellectual properties.
Kapla.
So excited for
Indeed.
this.
I cannot tell you how excited I am to just engage.
I'm going to sit down like Riker as soon as we start that cast.
Oh, backwards on the... Wait,
Like
the leg
a
goes over
motherfucker.
the back
Yes,
of the chair.
I got the Riker sits. It will happen. Get that on your
that is gonna
on your
be
podcast.
A good episode.
Make it so.
Engage.
Intriguing.
All right. So if you've never listened before, the very next thing we always do is talk about a beverage we are going to imbibe, which is part of the reason why I can't say any of these elven names. And Sean has graced us with another surprise beer cast. So I have no clue what he's got for us right now, but I'm going to pitch it to him.
I like how the surprise beer is kind of taking the lightning round thing. It's like our next phase, right?
Yeah.
Like
It's almost the
surprise
next
beer.
generation of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I should do is wrap the beers in like one of those cellophane balls and make you guys like unravel it until you can get to the beer.
Oh.
All right. So before we do though, I want to give a quick shout out myself actually to our friends down under, where most of these properties reach their film potential. At least in New Zealand, I believe, is also where Rings of Power and the Lord of the Rings films and the Hobbit films were all filmed, because it is a magical place, and we have a lot of listeners down below the equator on the other side of the planet where everything's upside down. And I just want to, give them a shout out. Let's see if this will work.
Nope.
Cheers, mate.
There we go.
There's a
Yes.
cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.
So if you hear a weird Australian guy in the background making weird random comments eventually, you'll know why.
Yeah.
But not really, because I didn't explain it. So
Nope.
we'll
Doesn't
just
matter.
leave it at that. So the beer. Okay,
Yeah.
the beer. Oh, where's the beer? Okay. You
It's in
guys
your
can't.
purse.
You can't look. It's.
Oh, okay.
It's in a shopping bag, not a purse.
It's a merce.
We are averting our eyes.
My previous beers that I bought by can alone, and they're loose ties to what we were talking about. This beer, because it's the holidays, I decided to treat you guys with something that I like because it's damn good. It's a return to the cast, and the only reason I really went with this is because, number one, consumers had no other beers relative to Lord of the Rings, and number two, one of my favorite throwaway names in the entire Silmarillion is Ancalagon the Black, the greatest of the winged worms and fire drakes ever. Sire, I believe, of the one from The Hobbit there. What was that one called? Smaug.
that's right.
Smaug. Thank you. So, maybe not the sire. But anyway, they all came from Glaurung the Dread, father of dragons. But, boys, I brought you some dragon's milk.
Dragon's milk is bad.
Reserve.
Right.
Which,
Yes, indeed.
if you don't like it, fuck you. Because this beer,
glorious.
this beer is always good. So here you go, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to pass that over to me.
Yes, thank you.
Here you go. Here you go. And I always buy the good beer because when we're at my house, I get to keep the extra.
Oh, of course.
All right, so I've got this nifty little opener here. It's like a little plunger. You just kind of do this,
Wow.
and it doesn't work.
Sort of
Ah, it
works.
did.
It takes it off.
All right. Thank you.
You got it.
I've never seen this before.
This is Dragon's Milk Reserved. It's a bourbon barrel aged stout with stroopwafel, cookies, coffee, caramel, and cinnamon.
It's all the winter things.
Are you ready for the read?
Yes.
This is the 2022 Reserve 2. Dragon's Milk Reserve is a treasure trove for the adventurous spirit. Each entry in the Reserve series is crafted to push the boundaries of our signature stout by exploring unique ingredients and barrels. An epic journey awaits. This adventure begins with a slumber in select bourbon barrels, imparting notes of vanilla and oak to this brew. A tantalizing blend of baked stroopwafel cookies, sweet caramel, aromatic cinnamon, and freshly roasted coffee provide a delectable dessert-like finish, completing the quest. Raise a glass to victory.
To victory.
To victory.
Victory. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh man, that's good.
That is
Yeah.
very obviously stroopwafel cookies.
Oh yeah.
Actually, yeah. Like, maybe it's the caramel and then a little bit of like the sugar, but I get it. Actually, I didn't think I would get stroopwafel.
This is. I was joking when I said that, but I'll assume that.
I figured.
I have been. I've always been a fan of any of the dark beers, porters and stouts this time of year in Western New York. But I have really in the last year or two leaned hard into the bourbon barrel shit. So this is hitting the spot. Another excellent choice, Sean.
I thank you for joining me with this one. By the way, it is an 11% ABV, so drink slow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Also a good reason to bring out the 11% when you're at your house, because you don't have to.
Sorry, I didn't.
No,
think of it that
no.
way. I just thought of a
I'm
delicious
jealous.
beer.
It is. It's chewy. It's thick. Love it.
Well, and you said that there were no beers that seemed to obviously go with the Tolkien theme, but that entire narrative you just read was like quest, adventure, epic,
Yeah,
journey.
I kept coming back to it. The only one I saw was this picture on the can of this old bearded dude. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of Gandalf-esque.
Yeah.
Or The Stranger in the case of what we're talking about today. But it was called Backwoods Bastard, and it was an IPA, which I hate. And the guy looked like a redneck when you read it closely, so I couldn't pull it away and say like, hey, this guy is one of the Astari. He clearly was not.
No,
Could have been a Southlander though.
Oh, those Moorish Southlanders.
Oh, Shakespeare.
That's right. Well, we'll get into, all those veiled references. All right, so let's dive into the TV series Rings of Power. I can't say I have any personal background with it because, if you listen to the other cast on Tolkien...
As well you should.
As, what are you doing here? No, I'm just kidding. Please stay. But at the same time, I come with my appreciation for Tolkien's stories through all the movies, the visual media that have been created around it. So I had really high hopes and expectations for this series, and I've got a lot to say after it, or about it. Mike?
I came to this with very low expectations. As someone who, we, as you said, we gave our backgrounds with Tolkien and Middle Earth in the last cast. So I'll just quickly summarize by saying I love all of that shit. But I didn't want a TV show to disappoint. We've talked on some other episodes about how Star Wars has released some things that have taken a little of the fun out of the franchise.
Sure.
And I was afraid of that. So I didn't want to go in with very high expectations. I wanted to keep them low because I wanted to be pleasantly surprised. And I feel like I didn't need to be. We'll get into more detail and you have a lot more to say, but I went in with low expectations and they were exceeded.
Mm-hmm. Sean?
I went in with extremely high expectations. No, I'm just kidding. I went in with...
Peter Jackson didn't direct it.
No, I went in with Amazon money expectations because I was kind of following the gestation of this show from when it was first announced that Amazon had secured the rights to do it to the fact that they were going to reuse a lot of the Jackson sets and designs and things like that. And I'm like, okay, that's going somewhere. And then you hear that Amazon and Bezos wants this to be his big thing, and he's dumping $1 billion.
That's insane.
$1 billion with a B into the production of this thing. And immediately I started thinking to myself, well, if this does not exceed Game of Thrones production value and everything else, then it's a failure. It's a miserable failure. So, there's a lot of tension in that. There's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of people they need to please. It's the general audience. There's the Tolkien audience. And, let me make my feelings known going into it, but I felt like I was hoping that this would be something that would extend people's love and appreciation of the Tolkienverse.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. We actually got a couple comments on Twitter about the episode coming up, thanks to Mike posting about it. And one of the people who popped in was our friends over at Back in Our Day podcast. And Max Power said, I thought the show was great, but some of the reversals at the end tend to be cheesy. I heard they don't line up with the Silmarillion, so I wanted to get into that in a little bit. They were trying to, avoid spoilers and be vague, but one of the places I wanted to go was, people had expectations no matter what side of the Tolkien spectrum you were on, and it had a lot to live up to. No matter how it did, no matter how much Bezos penis-shaped rocket money got dumped into the show, I mean, everybody was expecting something out of it, either a great success, a great failure, or a shrug mediocre So it really had to thread a fine needle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hopping into it, let's get a quick summary in case our listeners haven't watched the show or want to know whether or not they should watch it based on a good summary. So we get the story of Galadriel, a elfin warrior who has been tracking down the great evil of the world. What name are they going by at that point? Morgoth.
The evil? Well, Morgoth they knew had been banished from the War of Wrath, so he was gone. She was tracking down the remnants of Morgoth's evil, led by Sauron.
Okay.
And that was who she was trying to find.
And when we first see her, she is at the end of her quest. They're telling her to give up. They're telling her to stop.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over. She finds some remnants of the evil, and she's like, I can't go to the promised land. I have to continue this quest now.
Something in her heart tells her, don't go.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, my absolute favorite part of the entire series is Galadriel jumping off a boat in the middle of the fucking ocean.
Yeah. That was my first thought.
Just starting to swim.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
She doried that, man. Just keep swimming.
She doried. Yeah, honestly, I know that elves are, they can live forever and take a lot of damage, but I'm like, how long has she been on this boat? I get that you're going to the promised land. How far is that?
She was sailing into the farthest west.
Yeah.
Now, and if you look at the way the lore lines up, I believe before the destruction of Numenor, the Blessed Realm was still part of the physical world.
Correct.
Yes.
So the
You
way
see it
they
on maps.
portrayed it was, I guess, not exactly accurate. It's supposed to be this like labyrinthine, Odyssean kind of like you have to try to navigate this maze. You got to get through these crazy places in order to even catch a glimpse of the Undying Lands, and then you would probably just get like flicked by the gods back out into space anyway.
That's a major part of the Silmarillion is the one human who actually does go there, and he leaves most of his guys on the boat and goes to appeal to them.
Elendil and
Yes.
and just the fact that that's a sticking point for a lot of the hardcore people who watch the show, talking about how that never happens. Galadriel doesn't leave Middle Earth until the very end of the Third Age, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And
Literally, it was a wide open ocean that they were navigating to get to it.
I wish I could have been there in the writing room when they were going over the script, and they're like, I can't even say it without laughing. They're like, okay, so this is the part where she just jumps it off the boat on purpose.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait a minute, she's how many, like hundreds? No, probably thousands of miles away from Middle Earth. Okay, so what's her plan? Is there like, did she like signal somebody there's another boat? Nope, she's gonna fucking swim.
She took it on faith. It was like that thing where she
There
just
you go.
knew somehow she was going to make it back to the shores of Middle Earth.
I wish that there had been 3 episodes where they had cut off to the
her
other
just swimming.
stories and explored them a little bit, and then
She's
cut
just out
back
there swimming.
6 minutes of Galadriel swimming somewhere.
Eventually, she's like, fuck it. And she flips to her back and just starts like lazily back kicking back to Middle Earth.
I'm shocked that none of the other elves like noticed. Basically,
Yes.
it's like they're all flying in, or they're all sailing into the blessed realm. No one turned around and go like, "Hey, what?" Like,
Y'all hear that splash?
yeah,
What the fuck was that?
turn the boat around. Like none of that. They just
no.
kept going. Yeah, fuck
No.
that bitch.
Well, especially when she didn't give up her dagger.
Yes,
Right? Like everybody saw her refuse to give up her weapon.
Right.
Why are you not paying attention to Galadriel here?
That would have been an even better scene if the boat was just slowly going alongside her, and they're like, "Come on, Galadriel, like,
No.
you're supposed to do this." And, I'm not doing it. And she just keeps swimming.
I'm not done yet.
That was a big thing with this series, was using her as one of your main characters, and that's tough because she lives for literally thousands upon thousands of years. She is one of the earliest born of the Noldor, like one of the most majestic of all of the elf beings. And people are complaining, like, well, what is she a warrior for? I thought she was like some kind of mistress elf witch thing or something, like with all these powers and stuff when Frodo. I'm like, well, yeah, that's thousands of years after this.
Right.
She's allowed to have a life, you know?
Exactly. When you think about, I mean, how much we change, I can tell you that me at 20 was a very different person than, me at 40. And that's 20 years. That's 2 decades. That's like a morning or an afternoon in Galadriel's life. And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, but the criticism being that wasn't consistent with her character in Lord of the Rings was fucking absurd to me.
Yeah.
I expected a younger, like more involved and, vigorous Galadriel. And that's what we got in the show, and I never understood the criticism.
Well, that's also consistent with Tolkien too, who basically said the elves will wane as they age, and the world gets weary. They grow weary, and they don't like look that much older, but they do change, and it's not like they change with the world because they're tied to it. And I guess people expecting that she was always Cate Blanchett. Come on, people, like it's first of all, it's a story. And they have to be able to compress thousands of years down into a palatable amount of time for a television audience. So that's a hefty thing. If you can disconnect the, canon lore from the story they're telling you on the TV show, I think it was well done in that regard.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think to expect a character who lives for thousands of years to never change, like they're undying, they're not unchanging.
Right. That's a
So-
great point.
And also, why would a static character be the protagonist in a series that you've invested billions of dollars in, right? I mean, I guess the argument is, and I guess some people have made this, that she didn't need to be the character, right? But at the same time, I mean, really, is that the sword we want to die on? I'm fucking fine with it.
But it's there. It's there in the lore. She was one of the leaders of the Noldor who led them out of the Blessed Realm back to Middle Earth to get revenge on Melkor. She was a fiery, hot warrior bitch back in the day. Like, let her have it, man.
And that's a quote directly from the Silmarillion.
Yes, fiery
exactly.
hot warrior bitch.
Yes,
Yep.
indeed. My one criticism of the way they depicted the elves in this series was that they have short haircuts. That is no bueno.
They have pixie cuts.
And number 2, some of the elves look old. They just look old, like Gil-galad and Celebrimbor. I'm like, no. Elves cannot look older than like maybe late 30s.
Right.
That's it. That's where they kind of stop.
I agree. Yeah. Gil-galad, is that how you pronounce it? In particular.
We're all just shrugging our shoulders, saying, "Please don't yell at us."
Actually, it's probably more like Gil-galad.
So Gil-galad was the one that really, I'm like, this is supposed to be like the big shot, big boss elf in Middle Earth at the time. Mm-hmm. And, like he's supposed to have some real striking on-screen presence. I'm thinking, I'm not going to remember the character's name or the actor's name from the Hobbit trilogy.
Thorinder.
But is that
the king of the elves?
Yes. The forest elves.
Yes. Legolas's dad.
Legolas's father, yes. Yeah. That dude was supposed to be like this very ancient elf, and he's like one of the big shots, one of the powerful old elves. And yet, he looks like a guy maybe in his mid-30s, and he looks very striking and imposing on screen. I saw Gil-galad, and I was like, he just looks like a dude, just like a guy, a middle-aged dude with long hair.
He looks like a middle management simp.
Yeah.
Who goes home and jerks off to like hentai every night because
like he's got a real job during the day, and then he goes home and like listens plays video games and listens to heavy metal, so he kind of is walking that line,
Yeah.
That's Gil-galad.
Yeah, but
Gil-galad.
And the guy who makes the rings, right? Was it Celebrimbor?
Yes.
Celebrimbor, who also looked like he was like mid-50s.
Yes! It's like, no, bro. And all elves should have long, flowing, beautiful, fine hair. That is clearly...
Is it because they don't cut their hair?
Or... I don't know. It's just because it looks more badass that way.
Sure.
More angelic. Right?
It shouldn't look like my Uncle Gary or something from Cheek to Wall.
Yes. Yes, they just...
Sorry, Gary's from Cheektowagas.
And like Elrond's depiction, like, yes, okay, I get it. Like, who's the guy who plays him in the movies?
Shoot. Agent Smith.
Hugo Weaving.
Yes.
Hugo Weaving's Elrond is perfect. Right? The way he plays him is as that, like, angry bastard who doesn't want his daughter to become a human. And eventually was like, okay, fine. I get it. But he's one of the oldest and most powerful. Yeah. He's descended from Maya and human and elf. He's like got it all. And the way they depict him in the show, he's warm-hearted and he's got a friendship with Durin and all that stuff, and it's lovely, but it doesn't look and feel like Elrond at all.
Your point is such a good one. There's so much gravity attached to every word that Hugo Weaving utters in those movies. That scene that you mentioned where like the daughter wants to stay, even his version of like a dad having daughter problems conversation is like, you will wander lonely epics under the dying trees until the breaking of the world, you know? And it's like, you don't get that from Gil-galad in this at all. He's the guy who like at one point, Elrond says to him, you owe me that. And he turns around and he's got this like cranky, like he goes, you are owed nothing. And it's like,
It's, not to be inconsistent. I'm sorry, Adam. Not to be inconsistent. I'm not saying that, like, Galadriel gets a free pass and she's allowed to be a different character, but it's that there was, like, I still saw echoes of that Galadriel in Morfydd Clark's portrayal.
Well, they all have to have that gravity. Yes. That like, sense of, like, oldness and wisdom and mystery to them.
And she had that, but the other elves just didn't quite carry the gravita that you expect from that race.
I was going to say something similar in that, well, I guess if we're going to let Galadriel develop and change, I guess we should let him develop and change, but
he's not developing and changing from anything into anything. He doesn't appear on screen anywhere else.
Galadriel is thousands of years older than them, so maybe the fact that she has been there, done that already, Elrond has a ways to catch up. He's still kind of naive and young for an elf.
Well, the difference here is that Galadriel in the show has yet to become Galadriel in the movie. Gil-galad basically is the Elrond of that age, right?
True.
Like he's not growing into something else. He's gone by that time, right?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the Elrond of that age.
I was confused about is Gil-galad. He's younger than Galadriel too, isn't he?
That I don't remember.
She was born in the Blessed Realm.
That's right. So she comes over as part of the oath.
Right. So
they all follow.
She spent hundreds, or if not thousands, of years living in the Garden of Eden. And I'm pretty sure Gil-galad was born a few generations down the line after the Noldor exiled themselves, because he was one of the last of the High Kings of the Noldor, right? Like that was, but I think he was descended from Turgon or someone like that, or whatever one of those fucking names we can't remember all.
Pierre
of them.
Tertian.
Wow.
There you go.
What that
was weird.
what happened to our
Oh,
bells?
because it just got
And
bigger.
his
we go.
nose was bent just the same.
Yep.
But no,
One of those names you can't remember.
Yeah, it's weird, like the hierarchy of how that works, right? Like, that's one question I've got for this. Like, let's get into it, right?
Sure.
Okay, so elves are basically immortal. They age to about their 30s or so, and then they pretty much essentially stop. But like, they don't get down. Like they have children, obviously.
Somehow.
And you literally spend thousands of years celibate.
Maybe that's the answer, though. I mean, we don't know because our
I
period,
don't like where this is going.
our stretch of our lives is like a few decades where we're like super into that, right? Maybe it's the same for them, and then they just don't get old and die, right? Like they get bored with it after 50 years.
After 1,000 years of having sex,
and then they're like, sex.
Tolkien wrote about it a little bit, like in a vague way in that book I was saying in the last cast about like notes on Middle Earth or whatever. And I guess the elves have they have their passionate time when they're young, when they're still kind of new in the world and
elves
everything.
in heat.
And he actually goes into quite detail. Like they'll have a kid, and the lady elf, for like
I can imagine the detail Tolkien goes
oh my god! Like the woman elf will she has to rest and recover because so much of her spirit fire goes into the new one.
Damn.
Which is why Feanor's mom died the only person ever to die in the Undying Lands because she put all of her spirit into her son. That's why he was so crazy.
Which is why,
yeah. But so they have to recover. It takes a few years or whatever, and then they come back. They get down again, and they have like a handful of kids. And then they just, like you said, they kind of just get tired of it. And it's like, yeah, I guess that's it.
It sounds like humanity, but stretched out on a longer timeline. Because if you've ever had a kid, that's pretty much what happens. It's like, you get down, you have your kid, and you're like, fuck, this is tiring.
It takes so much.
But the crazy thing is then your parents are with you forever, and they look essentially just like you. Right. And I always thought that's kind of weird. Like, did you realize Galadriel is like Elrond's aunt or something like that? Or whatever. And his daughter... Arwen is actually like Aragorn's like great aunt or something like that. Like they're related all through the same house. It's like some weird shit going down. Damn. Elrond married Galadriel's daughter. Yeah, that's all there, man.
There's, I guess if you live forever, you really have to keep track of your family trees.
Oh yeah,
and not get that shit fucked up.
They would need very good record keeping. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess if you're not like getting down through most of eternity, then you're probably not really worried about it.
Well, that's true, and I guess their memory is better than ours. Like I forget shit I did yesterday, let alone like something like that.
Yeah, and
thousands of years ago.
The Evenstar, Arwen, was one of the last elves born in Middle Earth. Like she was one of the younger ones. So, but I don't know how that works. And Aragorn was really old too, right? Wasn't he like 80?
Yeah. No, older than that, I think. Well, no, maybe not. He was around there, yeah.
Yeah, but he was raised in Rivendell.
There's a scene that I don't know if it was either a deleted scene or if it's in the extended edition. I can't remember, but he actually tells oh shoot, I'm blanking. Who's the other? There's only like 2 women in Lord of the Rings. Who's the other one? The human. Yeah, so he's telling her how old he is, and like she doesn't believe him.
She's stunned by it.
Then he has to explain.
Yeah, he's one of the Dunedain.
Yeah,
you want to really fucked up because I know we're getting way off topic here. We'll end it with this.
It's all on topic.
Yeah, it's all Middle Earth.
He was reared in Rivendell, right, in the House of Elrond. Arwen would have been around for hundreds of years or so before he was. So she would have been like changing his diapers and shit. As a baby.
Fuck, man.
Doesn't that fuck with you a little bit? Like, now they got Liv Tyler and Viggo Mortensen. Oh, yeah, he's so much older than her. Oh, my God. No, the characters themselves. She had been around for a while.
Damn.
Oh,
yeah.
This cast makes me realize how much I don't know, and I already knew that I don't know.
There's a lot to unpack, for sure.
There for sure is. So, I guess one of the easiest ways to make this accessible for others at this point would be, okay, we've gotten a brief summary, at least the start of the quest. What are we doing here? Galadriel is back in the world trying to stop the return of Sauron. Did I get that right?
Should we talk about how she just basically got duped?
Yeah. I mean, we can go there. Let's go there first.
Okay.
As part of the continuing summary.
Yeah.
Okay. We can edit it together or out or in however we want.
All right. That sounds like a lot of work.
All right.
Let's just riff.
That's fine. Dear family, stay with us. So she got duped,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
want to expand upon that for those people who haven't made it to, what would you say, episode...
The last?
9? Was that 9 or 10?
I don't know. One of the last
It was
episodes.
the final episode.
I always
Right.
forget
The
if it
final
is 9 or
final.
10.
It was after they revealed the Mordor in a PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, one of my favorite GIFs of this week, right next
great.
to the potatoes.
Potatoes. No, it was that was one of the brilliant turns I thought of the story because they really took the idea of Sauron the Deceiver,
Right.
who at that time could still take fair form, and he basically like duped them all,
Yes.
and that's exactly how not exactly, but that is how it works in the story. Like he like fucks over the Númenóreans, he fucks over the elves, he fucks over all these people because he's so good at deceiving them that I think they played that role great in the way that he like reveals himself in a way to Galadriel, and the way Morfydd Clark plays that, like the oh fuck,
Yes.
Yeah.
like you, the guy who pulled me out of the ocean, saved my life. I've been fighting for you
Right.
and with you.
Yeah.
You're my mortal enemy that
Right.
I swore to kill with this dagger. Wow.
And that was the moment so many people were pissed about.
I loved it.
And
I loved it.
I think like the way they traditionally do these things is they have the deceiver character fool the other characters, but not the audience. So you get the Sheev Palpatine,
Yes.
you know, who's like practically like snarling and twirling his fingers and saying everything cryptically with double meaning, you know, and all
Twirling
the other
his mustache at the camera.
right? Like I want peace, and all the other characters are like, see, that's a good dude right there. We can trust him.
Yeah.
But they actually fully went in on the deceitful aspect of this. They fooled the audience too.
Well, they
sold this guy almost as Aragorn light, like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
heroic,
Yes. Good call.
you know, sort of dude who's like he's gonna be he's
King of the South.
right, like because when we meet Aragorn, he's like one of those wild rangers, right? But he turns out to be like the guy who's gonna save them all, and that's how they are with this guy. He's on a fishing boat. We're not really sure, but it turns out he's really the rightful king of the South, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And we're fooled too. And you know, I don't really know how the audience, I haven't like talked to a ton of people about this, so I don't know if most people are more clever than me. But until I happened to see a spoiler like right before I watched the last
that's
episode, I didn't know it. Like I had no idea. It wasn't even on my radar trying to like guess who Sauron might
Well,
be.
they had the red herring of the stranger.
Right.
Who was the, lands in a comet, fire disappears from him, like the
Yes.
evil one.
Those
that
three
always-
creepy things they're looking for.
Yeah.
And that one always did feel wrong to me. I said that from the beginning. Like that character did not seem like Sauron to me.
But
But
they did a really good job of balancing those two characters as
Yes.
which one's it going to be.
True.
Because
Yeah.
the stranger had his moments of like, oh, fuck, that's not good. Like, if he's really forgetting who he is, because
Right.
Sauron was a Maiar. He
Right.
was at one point,
They,
quote
they
unquote,
veiled
good.
him. Yeah,
Right.
they veiled his mind.
And there was a time, if you read in the Akalabeth, that talks about how Sauron actually may have repented for a little while of the evil of Melkor. So you don't know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then they kept showing what did they call him? The guy who turned out to be Sauron. What was his name? I fucking forgot. Some throwaway name. Sheev? I don't know.
Sheev.
But
Let's go
anyway,
with that.
so that
Nigel.
guy, he looks like, oh yeah,
Nigel.
he's Nige. He's very like gray morality and all that,
Yes,
and he
yeah.
just seems like a dude. But there's that like, oh, he helps Galadriel. He's really sharp. He fucked those guys up and broke some bones and stuff pretty brutally. Ooh,
Handily. Yeah.
you
Blood
know?
splatter on the screen.
So there was equal amounts of like, who could it be?
But it's done super well, like because it's the type of thing where even that doesn't make you think at the time. You think like, oh, those dudes were bullies. They fucked with him, and he fought back. And okay. So what have we learned here? We've learned that he's got some good warrior training, right?
and the
Yeah.
Númenóreans
But
could be
could be
dicks.
the king of the
But
South.
in retrospect, only in retrospect does that seem like, oh, that was a clue. Because look how fucking savage that was.
Yeah.
Like he didn't fuck around. He fucked those dudes up
Oh, yeah.
brutally.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I got from the Stranger episodes that made me think for a while, besides the darkness of some of the magic he used, the uncontrollable power, is those three, I can't think of their names, what are they called in the show? The three things looking
Acolytes,
for him.
I think.
Yeah,
something like
we
that.
can call them the acolytes.
Those
that makes
things
sense.
were terrifying.
They were terrifying
Holy
and creepy,
shit.
and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll buy into this, that
Right.
they would of course be looking for Sauron.
Right.
I'm trying, Sauron.
Sour. No, it's sour, like sour. Sauron.
Sauron.
Yeah.
There we go.
Close.
Sean's gonna punch me in the face. pretty soon.
Oh, if I haven't done it by now, Adam.
That's fair. I appreciate that. But like that was enough of a red herring for me to buy into it and say like, yeah, of course. Because I'm also, no offense, Amazon, I'm not really expecting that sort of intellectual approach to, I'm just looking, okay, here's a copy of the text sort of thing.
But the other thing, too, that I think threw people off is that the Astari, or the wizards, don't come to Middle-earth until the Third Age.
Right.
So no one was expecting another Maiar presence in Middle-earth at this time. But I guess there's these veiled ideas that the Blue Wizards may have come earlier, or that Gandalf might have walked in Middle-earth before he came as Gandalf. So we don't know. There's a lot of open-ended, and I guess that would explain his affinity for the hobbits because he found the small folk first, or they found him, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, they need Gandalf.
Oh,
he's got to be Gandalf.
And that's, I don't know if we want to talk about this topic now, but that's another thing that has received criticism that I am totally fine with. I have no objection to. I mean, the way that all of Tolkien is written is while he gives you so much detail upon which the story is built, much of the story is broad strokes itself in terms of the character and the events. Like battles happen and you don't get pages and pages of battle detail. You get the battle was fought, it was intense and people were killed. Here's who won, right?
Yeah.
So
6 people died and everyone else
if you're
gathered on the
going
ridge.
to adapt this for a modern television audience, then, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be some evolutions. You're going to have to take some liberties. If you want to say hey, you know what? Gandalf is if not the major character in Middle-earth in many people's minds. We're going to bring him in a little early. Whatever. I have no
Give him a little
objection
mythology.
to it.
He's the anti-Sauron, right?
Yes.
He has to be.
He's the antithesis of everything that Sauron is, because Saruman couldn't stand up to him, right? It was always Gandalf. Even Celeborn or Celebrimbor or whatever, Círdan, the shipwright, gives him Nenya when he arrives because he knows this dude's going to do some shit.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the idea that guy was even entrusted with the Ring of Power. There's got to be something behind it, right? Maybe he was there before and that spirit was recognized by Círdan. He's oh yeah, I know what you're here for. You got to take this guy out. There's it's not it's totally unearned. And I think the Tolkien Illuminati there need to relax a little bit and let them tell the story.
Well,
I think
definitely
it's a lot of
some strict constructionists in the Tolkien world.
Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. I was about to say is what you basically have are Tolkien scholars who want you to know that they're Tolkien scholars. I don't mean legit Tolkien scholars, people who have spent their life immersed in this shit. I mean just real enthusiasts, like ourselves, but they want to use these criticisms as a way of underscoring their own understanding of the world.
They're comic book guy.
Exactly.
Comic book guy,
another great analogy.
Yeah.
Yes, you guys both get a bell. This bell is for both of you.
Thank you.
You know what?
Split with you.
You'll be right, mate.
Thank you for that.
There
So
we go.
I'm we know all this shit too. We've read all the books, we've seen the movies, we've watched the extended editions and all the supplemental material. We know all this shit too.
God, how much of our lives have we devoted to this fantasy world?
A lot. You know what? Let's criticize the fuck out of the show so that everybody knows how much time we've committed.
That's right. We need to score our points now to undermine everyone else's identities.
Yes, I think if you have an understanding of the different mediums, then you understand that, look, man, the Silmarillion and the appendices at the end of Return of the King are not translatable to the screen unless you take a lot of liberties.
Right.
Yep.
Now, now, I guess where do you draw the line is the question. For me, I'm willing to be pretty generous if the story is well done, and I thought it was.
I think there's an analogy in modern interpretations with Foundation.
Oh yeah,
Which I believe, was it YouTube or who the hell tried to make that thing?
Apple TV Plus.
Is it Apple TV?
I think so.
I haven't exactly seen it, but I read a few quick reviews, and they were saying the same problem. You're talking about a story that takes place literally over millennia.
right.
Yeah.
And it's how do you tell that story? Because you have no consistent cast. At least the people in Rings of Power have some touchstones. You've got Elrond. You've got Galadriel. You've got Sauron. You've got these people who, and even the Númenóreans who live for hundreds of years.
Right. Yeah.
And what was the kid there that eventually cuts the ring off of Sauron's finger and fucks the world over by not killing or destroying the ring?
Oh.
He's a kid in the story.
He's the kid in the story.
Yeah,
human kid.
the sailor boy. Yeah, what the hell is his fucking
Yeah,
name?
why are we blanking? He's a major character in Lord of the Rings too.
Isildur.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
so-
god. Thank you, Beer.
You are Isildur's heir, not Isildur himself.
Yes.
The same weakness flows in my blood.
But Isildur's there. Like, it's, there's enough there where you can still tell a cohesive tale that I don't think is going to fuck with the originals that much. And if you read the original material, it is much more saga-esque.
Yes.
Whereas this is like, no, this is how it really happened kind of a feel to it.
So you have to decide, like, how are you going to do this? Are you going to do this as an anthology, or are you going to do this as serialized storytelling? Yeah. You cannot do the Silmarillion and the appendices and be faithful unless you're going to do an anthology. Like, here's chapter 7, this section where we explore blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah.
If
the
you're
section
going to...
where I just show you a random
Yes.
disembodied entity creating the earth.
Exactly. And so to your point about, like, they wanted a set cast of characters, they wanted to tell a cohesive, serialized tale, then you have to make major changes like that. And one of the aspects of serialized storytelling are major characters, protagonists and antagonists.
But one of the things that's really cool is, like, the development of Númenórean culture. Like, they've got a setup for season 2, which I think will really work well, because you got our Farazan, who is, like, whatever, the nephew of the king who dies, and he's gonna, we know what's gonna happen there. With the blind queen and with Isildur and his father and how the destruction of Númenor is coming. They've also got the origins of Mordor, which I thought was badass. Yeah. The way that they did that. I was like, man, this Chekhov's gun thing better go somewhere with that sword thing that little pissant had. Yeah. And then finally it was like, oh, wait a minute. That actually was pretty fucking badass. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they got a setup now where Sauron's walking into Mordor. One does not simply walk into Mordor, but Sauron does. Yeah. He's walking in to basically, like, set them up for that first time where the Númenóreans come in force to the west, or they come, to the western shores of Middle Earth, and they basically make him heal, and you're like, no, you're coming back with us. Right. Like, they have now they can do that. They can bring him back, and they can say he's known now, and make it like, I am Anatar, giver of gifts, and like they can do that whole thing, make him make war on the Undying Lands. Like they've got that whole part of the story. Please the nerds with it, but you've got the core story set up to do that now.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah. And I think they really have the money, the budget, and probably the time to make that epic battle happen.
Yes,
in a way that, like, would please everybody.
And that's the beauty of this, is I think how gorgeous this show is to look at.
Yeah.
It is stunningly beautiful. That is the one pleasure. I could sit there and watch it on mute and just be dazzled. It's like playing Breath of the Wild, which is that it's just this huge fantasy world that just looks incredibly rich and detailed. And the budget was perfect for that.
And that was a huge part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy is like you said, you could watch it on mute and just enjoy the visuals. You could watch it without dialogue and just enjoy the fucking music.
Yeah.
Holy shit. And that was something that The Hobbit was lacking. The music was less and the visuals were less.
Right.
And Rings of Power, I don't know that I'm willing to, like, say the music was fantastic. It wasn't bad, but the visuals were back to that, like, yes, this is an important part of it.
Right.
It can't look like a cartoon like The Hobbit did. It had this sense of scale, this sense of epicness, and as you said, it was just beautiful on screen.
Right. It's not flawless. The portrayal of the Hobbit, the Wanderers, whatever they call them.
Disappointing.
Harfoots.
Yeah,
Harfoots,
Harfoots.
It's like, it's a pastiche of like Irish, like
Irish countryside peasant stereotypes.
With some gypsy thrown in.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
yes.
and by the way, those people are supposed to be like so heartwarming and loving and everything, but holy fuck, they are
hardcore
as shit, man.
Oh yeah,
they're like, dude, you sprained your ankle, you fucked now.
Bye.
Yeah,
shit,
you can't keep up. Fuck you, bitch.
You're slowing the Harfoots down.
Yeah, we'll pick up your shit on the way back when you're dead.
And I will say that was for me a major problem in that final episode. Was like you had that, like you said, that badass, masterful reveal of who Sauron was, where you have like goosebumps, and it was so well done. Galadriel's like shock and horror is our shock and horror.
I loved how he tried to seduce her too. Like that was even better.
Yes, I like that too. But then after that, you immediately come out of that and go to the one main Harfoot girl saying goodbye to her family for like half an hour.
Yeah,
she goes to every other Harfoot, and she's like. It's very tearful.
Unearned.
And they have entire dialogues. And then she goes to the next one and does it all again and again and again.
That was like the end of the Jackson trilogy where it just would not end.
Yeah.
And I know he cut a lot out of that. Like, he didn't talk about the scouring of the Shire and Saruman going back and all. He got all of that out of it, but it still felt like, oh, it's over. Nope. Okay, now it's over.
Keep
nope.
going.
Oh,
Fade
now
out
it's
to the
nope.
Shire.
But even that, like, I don't mind that because that was tying together a lot of storylines from the whole thing. And it was such a brooding trilogy that it's like, okay, let's spend a little time ending it.
Yeah.
But this was just like, dude, you go from the emotional high of that Sauron thing to this girl saying a tearful goodbye to her family for half a fucking hour on screen. I was just like, dude, this better end.
99% of those people I didn't know.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Like, who the fuck's this one again?
Yeah.
Definitely
Pathfinder died.
The
Gone.
weakest
Doesn't
part.
matter.
The weakest part of the story is the Harfoots. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. They're supposed to be the heartwarming. Excuse me.
Bless you.
On air sneeze.
How unprofessional.
Honestly.
The
Fucking
dying,
rookie
Mike.
here, amateur hour?
I'm sorry, guys, but the I think the rest of it made up for it. I know they're going to learn lessons from this. They're going to
Sure.
listen to their criticism.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, okay, maybe we should dial down the pastiche a little bit. And
Absolutely.
The director's already contacted us, guys, about our feedback on
This is true.
So,
This is true. They got to bring Colbert in as a future friend of the cast. They got to bring him in as a consultant too.
yeah,
for
as
sure.
a producer.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
radical shift here, but I want to talk about my absolute favorite character in this whole thing. His name is escaping me. It is the guy who was an elf and he's now like the father of orcs. The character name.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking
Adar.
about.
Adar.
Adar, right? Like
Adar
his
or
name is
something
his
like
father.
that.
He's the guy who leads the orcs down
Yes.
through the trenches
Yes.
and everything.
Fucking
I
brilliant
Totally
character.
forgot about
Yes.
that bloke.
Best part
Yes.
of the show for
Yes,
me.
he was amazing.
The dude, like, right from his introduction, I will admit, I was one of the people that was duped and thought that was Sauron.
Yeah, same.
first,
Same
right?
here, sure.
But then he does this, like, I'm a huge Apocalypse Now fan, and I'm telling you, the dialogue was literally lifted from Kurtz at the end. You know, he asks him, he asks him where he's from, and then he does that thing like, oh, I remember going down the river and seeing all these pretty flowers on the land, and you're like, oh, I get it, like, Innocence Lost and PTSD and all that, you know? And then the way he played that character as this person who is simultaneously has a heart and is horribly cruel at the same time.
This twisted heart, his logic fits.
But even his cruelty, you see as a reflection of like what he's been through. You know, that post-traumatic stress disorder is written all over that character. I thought he was great.
So much to mine there because like the theories on the internet are rife for that guy, and like they're like I guess the leading theory, as far as I can tell, is that he's Maeglin, the dark elf who was from Gondolin, who fell into flame, but they never really showed that he died because he's disfigured, right? He's a little scarred, but he could have also just been someone who was tortured by Morgoth or whatever. Like, you know, the theory that the orcs were just twisted elves and they came from the elves somehow, and that's why they call them Adar or whatever. And it's just there's so much pathos dripping from that character. Like that guy earns every second of screen
When
time.
Galadriel's like interviewing him, and you find yourself interviewing, interrogating
him.
But you find yourself on his side,
Yes!
right? You know what I'm saying? Not Galadriel's, his side. And he's like, you know, she says something to the effect of like, you know, look how much they're suffering, and he's like, but they all have a name or something to that effect, right? You know, and it's just like, damn.
I want him to have a spin-off origin story. Like, I want more on that guy.
Careful, you're going to get like what happens with Star Wars, where it's like, here's a Gronk droid, like Mike shared with us earlier.
A Gronk droid?
A Gronk story.
Wait.
Did you see that?
No, I'm sorry. First of all, and it's a Gonk.
Gonk.
A Gronk droid would be a totally different thing. That would be a droid that has like a cruise and
keep shouting these nuts.
Yes, exactly. Or 69, bro.
Well, I'll tell you what.
That's what that droid
11%
says.
beer. Yeah, that's what that droid says.
69, bro.
69. I'm sorry.
I want that story. Damn it.
Yeah, right? There you go. You know what? If Disney pays me $5 million, I'll write that story.
I did read that the actor who played that character is not returning, though, in season 2.
I know, that's what sucks.
Yeah,
That sucks.
However,
Sucks
you know,
for us.
it blows. If they can get a person that can carry that kind of gravitas, and the prosthetics should make it fairly seamless, but oh man, I really hope it is Maeglin. I really hope it's some like prominent elf from the first age who's tortured and twisted and turned into this father of orcs or whatever, and he gets in a chance to explore like that. Because now Sauron's going to come in and be like, fuck you, get out of here. This is my place now.
Yeah.
You know, I manipulated all this.
Right.
Yeah.
There's going to be a power struggle. It's going to be great.
Yes.
the changing into Mordor was one of the most visually stunning scenes.
That was
And the
wild.
lead up into that with like the trenches going into the town of Man.
Yep.
And then just when the brimstone came and hit that entire wall of humans, like, oh my God. That was the first scene where I was like, okay, now I can't do anything else. I have to sit and watch this.
Yes,
I can't do laundry. I can't do whatever. I'm staring at this now.
Admittedly, I was watching the whole series, like week for week. I was watching it up to that point, and I was like, okay, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm like the Durin stuff with Elrond and that. I'm like, all right, okay, that's where Mithril comes from, and Mithril is the secret to saving the Elven realm.
That shit was a bit weird.
Yeah,
It
a little
did seem a
hokey.
bit stretched, yeah.
It's like they tried to find a way to make a reason for them to make the
Right.
Rings of
and
Power.
it's not drawn
Yeah.
from anywhere
No.
in Tolkien.
No.
I
that
don't
was
think
invented
so, but I'm glad
completely.
that
Right.
was
And
right.
that's how they delved too deep and found the Balrog and all that. All right, whatever. Sure, they got to find a way. I was kind of losing it. But then that Mordor reveal.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, fucking Tolkien boner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sat there going like, oh, yes, that is what I came for. Because I had a feeling that one time they showed like the distance and they showed that singular mountain there. I'm
that
like, is
fire.
that the Lonely Mountain? Like, no, they're in the Southlands. And then you see it, Orduin or whatever it's called, erupting. I'm like, fuck. And the way it all went down, I'm like, that shit's been laid there for centuries.
Yep.
It was reminiscent to me of a very similarly shot scene. We mentioned the Shakespeare references before. There's a Macbeth film starring Michael Fassbender that ends that way. The gorgeous Scottish countryside turns the entire screen turns red as they burn the forest. This is how Dunsinane comes to
Burnham Wood.
Yeah, because it's the glowing embers falling. But the countryside disappears into the fiery red, and it is a stunning juxtaposition and a horrifying shot, and gorgeously done. And that's what I was thinking about as I watched this. You have this beautiful New Zealandish shot of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Suddenly being totally engulfed in the red of the flame and the smoke and all of that.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I gotta say, well, I think we're getting close to the end, right? But
Yeah, we're just about there.
I gotta say, I am really looking forward to the second season.
Agreed.
I might be a minority of Tolkien nerd that's feeling that way, but I loved it. I thought it was worthy of a watch, and a second, I'm going back to watch it again before the new season comes out because
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure I missed things in this.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. I always feel like in a Tolkien story, it's denser than I even think it is.
Yeah.
And I already know it's dense, and I'm like the blockhead who doesn't get everything watching it the first or second time, so I'm definitely going to go back to it.
And it bears stressing. I mean, if you're a longtime listener of the show, then you already know this. But if you came to this show because you were searching for Tolkien content, we're not like, people who just geek out over everything. And
No.
like we are, listen to our back catalog. We criticize the fuck out of many things.
Yeah.
So if we're saying that we thought this was well done, it's not because we're, assholes who just are going to like anything because it's Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Amazon did not pay us for this endorsement.
No, exactly. I
Not
think that
yet. Just kidding. Jeff Bezos.
I feel like the sentiment being expressed here, which we mutually agree on, is very genuine.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fresh voice. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It's like Peter Jackson, he took it and did something with it that cinematically, like you said before, Mike, no one ever thought it could be done. And I think this group of producers here and the money that they've dumped into it, they've created just a new voice in that universe, and I am not pissed at it.
And it's okay for things to just be good, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
we're so spoiled with
yes.
everything being pristine
Right.
and immaculate.
You have Lord of the Rings, which in my opinion is a cinematic masterpiece. It's one of the great films of all time. I mean the whole trilogy by that. And then you have The Hobbit, which is an atrocity and a carnival show.
Agreed.
And then I think this lies somewhere in the middle. It's not a cinematic masterpiece, but it's good, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, agreed.
And if you haven't listened to our back catalog, as Mike was suggesting, this is one
Strongly
suggesting. This is one of the rare episodes where we all agree that this is a watch.
Yeah.
We have definitely split decisions throughout most of the podcast here, so it really is saying something if all of us are yes.
Somebody hit us on the socials and tell us how many times we've actually all agreed unanimously on something.
Yeah.
And
It
one
can't be
of the
often.
three of us is, let's say, very careful in what they give their, approval to.
That's very kind. As Mike
And
looks
it's been
across to
nothing
Sean.
but approval this evening. So I'm saying this as this shit must be good.
Must be worth your time.
Fuck! We didn't hear this
No.
in this entire episode,
No.
Or
nor
the
the
last.
last one on the Silmarillion.
No.
We did not hear the booming Sean, fuck you.
No, I just
There's
did
nothing
that
to give
out
it to.
out of just loyalty to tradition.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Sticking with it.
Yuba-yuta!
Yubba-yute.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either, but for our friends down in the Down Under, we appreciate the sound effects for this episode. We appreciate your time.
And our listeners in Cameroon.
Oh, hey, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot about you, Cameroon. We see you showing up on the cast here. That's it for us tonight. Before this, 11% beer hits me so hard that I can't speak anymore.
Too late for that, Adam.
But it has been fantastic hanging out with you guys, talking Tolkien. And if Tolkien's not your thing, if high fantasy isn't your thing, we do have some space fiction coming up with all of the beautiful 90s Star Trek Next Generation and the other space shows that we have seen coming out, or that we saw coming out in the 90s.
I'm working on the trademark for that episode. The 90s Nerdgasm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can get that into the patent office.
Oh, yeah. This timestamp this episode, folks. Nerdgasm belongs to us.
That's right. That's right. I don't think so, actually.
It
But that's
belongs
fine.
to us, damn it.
That's right.
We'll fight for the right to use the word nerdgasm. 'Cause
Indeed. Look at us and our socials. We're at Nerds of the Old Republic. We'll post some links to some of the supercuts that we're looking at, the episodes we're thinking of, and feel free to hit us up if we missed something in any of the Rings of Power, or you want to send us some suggestions for episodes from Star Trek, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, any of the other Babylons or
Stargate
Stargates.
SG-1.
Yeah.
The
We're
movie?
Space Above and Beyond.
What?
Yeah, nobody knows that one.
No.
I'm the
I
only
don't
person
either.
who remembers that show in the entire world, probably.
But that's where we're going next. Well, maybe the actors remember.
Farscape?
I remember Farscape.
Something
Sure,
about
sure.
Farscape. Yeah, that's
All
right.
right. That's where we're going next month. So we'll see you then. Until then, stay nerdy, friends. Cheers.